Hello, it's Cooper and Sarah, and one question that Sarah and I are often asked the most from family and friends, and that's which country do we enjoy living in the most? Australia or England? Australia.
Australia.
England. If we're being honest, it's not an easy question to answer. Both countries have unique qualities to offer. Even though both Australia and England are home to wonderful landscapes, beautiful scenery, great food and bustling cities, they're both very different destinations. And as many Australians will agree, there's something attractive that draws us to the UK. So if you're an Australian citizen and you're thinking about relocating to the United Kingdom, well, this video is for you. Today we're going to look at the Ancestry visa as an option for relocating from Australia to the United Kingdom.
But first, a quick bit about our channel. We are travellivelearn.com and youtube.com travellivelearn. We talk a lot about freedom through travel, creative living and remote working.
Let's jump into it. There are many Australians who have some link to the UK, and this may be an opportunity for you to relocate to the United Kingdom as an Australian. I'm applying for the Ancestry visa, and Sarah will jump onto mine as an unmarried partner. To apply, you need to fulfill the following criteria.
So you need to be Australian or a member of the Commonwealth. You will have a grandparent who was born in the UK. It's during a specific period of time. So the ancestral visa, those who are eligible for it are probably dwindling. I think it's Cooper's kind of you're the last generation. There's a complete list. If you search for UK Ancestry visa, it will tell you the criteria that you need to meet to apply.
Now online it all seems pretty straightforward and simple, but there is a fair bit of research and paperwork that you need to submit to apply for your visa.
It is straightforward, especially the Ancestry visa that Cooper's eligible for, but it does take time. So pretty much the steps you need to take. It's simple. You look up the UK Ancestry visa online, follow the links, input your details, and then it will take you through the application process. So there's a lot of paperwork that you want to pull together to prove that you are eligible for this. So this will include your birth certificate and your grandparent, most importantly, who is from the UK. You'll need financial statements to show that you have money in the bank to back yourself while you're getting established in the UK, planning to work in the UK. Maybe you've got some emails from exchanges with recruiters, or perhaps your workplace is sending you to the UK to work. The other thing that you need to pull together is a list of places that you have travelled to in the past 10 years.
This is where Facebook was very handy for Sarah and I, because we'd forgotten a lot of the places that we travelled to, and if you look at the photos on Facebook, they actually have the date below, which makes it a bit easy for you.
For us, it was a bit more complicated in that we've lived in the UK, twice before, beginning from around 2010. So if you're in Australia and someone says to you, oh, I've travelled to Europe a lot, that might sound a bit odd, but when you're based in the UK, it's so easy to come and go. So you are asked two different travel questions. One is about the times you've come and gone from the UK itself, which for us had been quite a few because we'd gone on quick weekends away to Europe. But then there's another question around other parts of the world too. So if you are applying as a partner, you'll want to sit down and, as Cooper said, go through Facebook, Dropbox, your phone, to get the approximate dates of when you've come and gone on various trips. But our big piece of advice is, with the Ancestry visa, you need to apply within 3 months of when you intend to travel. Strongly recommend that you use the 3 months just to alleviate any stress, gives you time to gather your paperwork, get into your biometrics.
Make sure you don't book your flight until you receive your visa. We made the mistake of booking our flight first.
Well, if we didn't book flights, it was just getting more and more expensive. So we were kind of forced to book flights for the period that we knew we needed to leave. The ancestral visa is supposed to take 3 to 6 weeks to be processed. It's around 3 weeks, but because there's so much going on in the world, they said to us, they might need a bit extra time. As it turned out, it was about 4 weeks. That included the holidays. So I think that was...
Total of 34 days.
That was pretty good. The stressful part though is just the waiting. There's no real way to track the progress of your visa and you know where your passport is. And the cost of this particular visa is around 1,000 Australian dollars, plus you need to pay your NHS surcharge, which covers you for 5 years access to the NHS.
Okay, the fun part when you're applying for your Ancestry visa and you'd like your unmarried partner to jump onto yours.
We've been to the UK twice before. Both times we've worked with an immigration lawyer in London to support our visa applications, which meant that while we had to gather all the admin and the paperwork, they were guiding us on exactly what we needed to do, and they were managing dates and deadlines and things.
Less stressful.
It's less stressful, but way more expensive. And I'm not sure you can see, we've got a little Westie dog sitting in between us here trying to sleep. So we've got an extra expense this time of arranging him to come with us, which we'll talk about in another video. But because of that extra expense, we decided to apply for these visas ourselves this time. Because I'd never done this before, or we'd never done this before, I just assumed that as part of the application for the Ancestry visa, that somewhere along the line I would put my details in and the partner visa would be linked with that application. While my details were included on Cooper's application as his partner, we got to the end of his application, paid and everything, and I'm like, oh, where do I apply for mine? You have to apply for the visa separately. Once again, Googled Ancestry visa, followed the breadcrumbs through to discover links that took us through to applications for dependents or partners, and you follow the link through to the option that says that you want to join a family member who is either already in the UK or is planning to go to the UK. So that was Cooper. And then the next was ticking the fact that Cooper's was a non-points based work visa. So if you're applying for this exact combination, the UK Ancestry visa is a non-points based work visa. So from there, similar process to what Cooper's was, had to fill in the travel details again, so the history of travel, dig up my birth certificates and evidence that I am who I am, that I have money in the bank and that I have a job and do, intend to work in the UK with Cooper. Pull all that paperwork together, but the additional piece that we needed to arrange was, and I did follow the packet that our immigration lawyers had pulled together. So they had encouraged us to grab a selection of photos. So from over the years, we printed them on some A4 pieces of paper and wrote the dates of when they were. For us, it was pretty obvious we've been together because there's like photos where we look really young.
Fabulous.
And then now. And then we pulled together bank statements, mortgage documents, utility bills, anything from over the past few years. For us, we went back about 10 years, but I think you only need to prove 2 years. Anything that had our joint names on it that showed we have been together and that we are a legitimate couple.
It's better to be over-prepared.
We also, I kind of copied what the immigration lawyers had done. They had written like a letter that was the introduction that said, Cooper and Sarah, this, and this. And so we copied that and I wrote a letter representing our situation and what we planned to do, the reason why we had come back to Australia in the first place. So a quick bit of background, we would have actually applied for our indefinite leave to remain. So that was after the 5 years lived in the UK. We were fully planning to apply for the indefinite leave to remain, but we were 2 months off that when unfortunately my father became ill and we needed to come back to Australia, and that was right as COVID was happening. So we got locked into Australia. So we had to start again in Australia. So we were always kind of hoping we might get to go back and finish what we started in the UK, and now that opportunity has presented itself. Pull all your contents together. It's follow the same steps, but again, this is why we wish we had have given some more time to bring that to life.
And just there was one section on there, Sarah, when we were paying the NHS. We didn't pay enough.
We had clocked that I was charged far less, and it looks like the equivalent of 1 year that I was charged for. There was no other way around this. There was no option to pay for more or anything like that. So we paid that, but through the application process, probably about a week before our visas actually came back to us, I had received an email from, I think it was NHS or the Visa Application Centre in Sheffield in the UK, saying that they were going through the visa application and I had underpaid, which totally freaked me out because it had been beyond our control and we had clocked it. They just sent me a link to pay the rest. And so I quickly did that, and then there was an email address that said to email back to let them know that the extra had been paid. Didn't receive any validation that that was all good, but 7 days later the visas did turn up. So if it happens to you, don't panic and freak out like I did. Just follow the process and it should be absolutely fine. So, but yeah, we think that's an important piece of information to share because that happened to us and it was completely beyond our control. Partner visa, that was a bit more of a complicated piece of the puzzle, but we did make it work and we got our visas back. So now I feel like maybe immigration lawyer is, on my career path for the future.
I suppose one of the questions that a lot of people are thinking, Sarah, is how much does all of this cost? And if we're being honest, it's not very cheap.
There's no doubt it's a massive hit up front.
It's an investment.
Yeah, it's financially, it's a hit up front, but exactly, a lovely word, we look at it as an investment. The NHS surcharge is very expensive, but it's for 5 years. It does give you access to the healthcare system in the UK. Across the space of 5 years, it's probably reasonable, I think, for the opportunity to live and work in another country, especially a great one like Great Britain.
Now the final part of the application, that is booking in for your biometrics identification, where they take your photo and your fingerprints.
This is all part of the application process as well. So once you've gone through and applied for your visa, whether you're the Ancestry visa holder or the partner visa, you pay your application fee, you pay an NHS Health Surcharge, and then the final bit is you will book in for your biometrics. Now in Australia, there is a visa office, VFS, that you can go to in all capital cities. So we went to the VFS in Brisbane. The downside of the Brisbane office at this point in time, it's based in Spring Hill, it doesn't offer the expedited service. That's something actually that we would have paid for. I think the service is a couple of $100, but it means you get your decision within a few days.
3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it alleviates a lot of stress. So if you do have that budget, it's probably worth it. But you can only do that, I think it was Sydney, Melbourne, and I want to say Perth, but it's online anyway. But as Cooper said, this is about getting your mugshot and your fingerprints. But you take your packet of evidence in. So this is where you'll take your passport. They do take your passport and send it to immigration, UK immigration. But you have everything that you have said that you will give as evidence. Another piece of advice I think we'd give is because we'd applied separately, or you had to apply separately, they're two separate applications. We'd pulled together all of our evidence in a lovely, organised, bound folder. There can't be any staples or anything, so just keep it really neat, but because it all gets scanned through to UK immigration. But we had everything beautifully ordered and neat, ready under Cooper's name and my name, and I'd actually arranged duplicate copies of bank statements and all sorts of things in case we had to go into our appointments separately. As it turned out, we did not. We went in as a pair and they actually submitted the application as one. So you actually don't need to duplicate anything. Pull all your paperwork together, but just order it as one application for both of you. Because I was a little bit worried that things would be submitted out of order because in the end there was content pulled from your folder, wasn't there, and then we were like madly pulling things from my application that I'd pulled together. So you could get all of that neatly ordered as one application and then you have no worries about anything getting out of place. But we were pretty organised, so I think it obviously ended up working in the end.
Because 34 days later, we received our visas.
Yay!
If you found this video helpful, please hit the subscribe, like, and notifications buttons. Hey, part 2 coming up. Sorry, London. We're going to show you how you can
just want to sleep.
transport a dog from Australia to England. Sorry, buddy. There you go.